The closer someone gets to truly loving you, the more you find a reason to make them leave. You felt it. Someone sees the real you, stays anyway, starts to matter, and something in you goes quiet and cold and begins, very quietly, to push. You stop texting back as warmly, you pick the small fight. You go looking for the flaw that proves they were never safe to begin with. And the strange thing is, it feels like protecting yourself. It feels like clarity. But it isn't. It's the oldest wound you carry, doing the only thing it ever learned how to do. By the end of this, you're going to understand exactly why you do this, where it comes from, and what the way out actually looks like. Not a trick, not a phrase to repeat in the mirror, the real mechanism underneath it. I'm the voice of shadow and self. I read the psychology so you don't have to, and I tell you the parts about yourself most people would rather not say out loud. Here's what's at stake, and I want to be honest with you about it. If you don't understand this pattern, it doesn't stay still. It follows you. It ends the relationship that could have been the one. It teaches the people who love you that loving you is a thing you punish them for. And slowly, quietly, it builds you the exact life you're most afraid of, the one where you end up alone. And then it whispers, see, I told you, no one stays. That whisper is the whole engine. Let me show you how it runs. Start here. The part of you that pushes love away is not stupid, and it is not cruel. It is young. Somewhere early, before you had words for it, closeness came bundled with pain. Maybe love in your home was conditional. Here one moment, withdrawn the next. Maybe a parent needed you to manage their feelings, so being close meant being consumed. Maybe someone who was supposed to stay simply didn't. You were small, and you could not change any of it. So you did the only thing a child can do. You learned. You learned that getting close to people is dangerous, and you built a guard at the door. Carl Jung had a name for the part of us we exile in order to survive. He called it the shadow. The shadow is everything we decided was too dangerous to feel, so we pushed it down into the dark where we wouldn't have to look at it. And for a lot of people, the very first thing that goes into the shadow is need itself. The raw, undefended hunger to be held and chosen and kept. Because if needing people is what got you hurt, then need becomes the unbearable thing. You bury it. You become independent, self-contained, the one who doesn't require anyone. And you tell yourself, that's strength. But here's the part nobody tells you. The need doesn't die when you bury it. Nothing in a shadow ever dies. It just goes underground and starts running your life from below where you can't see it. So you grow up wanting closeness with everything in you and terrified of it with everything in you at the exact same time. And when real love finally arrives, both of those forces wake up at once. This is the knot at the center of it, and it has a name in depth psychology. It's the collision between two fears that should never have to fight, but in you they do. The fear of abandonment, that if you let someone in, they will leave, and it will destroy you the way it almost did the first time. And the fear of engulfment, that if you let someone in, you will be swallowed, controlled, consumed, that you will disappear into them and lose the self you built to survive. Most people only feel one of these. If you push love away, you're almost certainly carrying both. So when someone gets close, you panic that they'll leave, and you panic that they'll stay. And the only move move that quiets both fears at the same time is to end it first, to push. Distance feels like the only safe place left. And notice what that gives you. If you leave first, you were never abandoned, you chose. If you keep them at arm's length, you can never be engulfed. Pushing them away feels like the one move where you finally have control. That's why it's so hard to stop. It isn't a flaw in the system. To the wounded child inside you, it is the system working perfectly. Now here's the turn, the part that's harder to hear. The mind doesn't just defend against the wound. It goes looking for proof of it. Jung understood that we project what lives in our shadow onto the people in front of us. So if, deep down, you believe you are too much, or not enough, or fundamentally unlovable, you will start to see that belief everywhere in the person who loves you. Their pause before answering becomes a proof they're pulling away. Their bad day becomes proof they're done. Their honest, normal flaw becomes the evidence you were secretly hunting for the whole time. You're not seeing them. You're seeing the wound painted onto their face. And then comes the cruelest mechanism of all, the one that locks the whole thing shut, the self-fulfilling prophecy. You believe, underneath everything, that people leave, so you test them. You withdraw, you provoke, you go cold, you push, not because you want them gone, but because some buried part of you needs to know whether they'll fight to stay. And no human being can pass that test forever. Push hard enough, long enough, and eventually they do leave. And in the wreckage, the wound stands up, points at the empty room and says, "You see, I was right. No one stays. You were never lovable." And it never once tells you that you are the one who arranged the proof. Sit with that for a second, because it's the whole trap in one sentence. You are not unlovable. You are someone who learned to destroy the love you most wanted, and then read the rubble as evidence that you never deserved it. That is a very different thing. And the difference is everything, because one of those is a life sentence, and the other one can be healed. So how do you actually get out? Jung gave the path a name. He called it individuation, and at its heart is something simpler than it sounds. Integration. You don't beat the shadow. You don't cut out the part of you that pushes. You turn around and you face it, and you finally get to know the frightened young thing that's been driving. Here's what that looks like in real life, in the actual moment. The next time someone gets close and you feel that cold pull to ruin it, stop and do the one thing the pattern was built to prevent. Name it. Say to yourself, this is the wound, not the truth. This is the child at the door, not the adult in the room. Because the pushing is fast and silent and feels like instinct. And the only thing that interrupts it is consciousness. The moment you can see the reflex while it's happening, you're no longer fully inside it. You have made a gap. And in that gap, for the first time, you get to choose. Then comes the part that takes real courage, more than leaving ever did. You let someone see the need you buried. You stay in the room when everything in you is screaming to run. You tell the person who loves you the truth, that closeness scares you, that part of you wants to flee, and that you're choosing to stay anyway. That sentence, spoken out loud to someone who matters, does something the silence never could. It lets you be loved as you actually are, instead of as the armored, untouchable version you built to keep from being hurt. And every time the love does not vanish, every time they stay through the honesty, the old prophecy loses a little of its grip. The wound starts slowly to learn a new thing. That being known is not the same as being destroyed. This will not happen all at once. Integration is not a single brave night. It's 100 small choices to stay when you'd rather disappear, to reach out instead of withdraw, to let the text sit warm instead of going cold. But each one rewrites the oldest story you carry. You were not born believing you'd end up alone. You learned it in a place where it was true. And what was learned can be unlearned in a place where it no longer has to be. The people who love you are not the danger. They never were. The danger was a door you built when you were too young to know you'd still be guarding it decades later. And you are allowed now to open it. This is shadow and self. If something in this found you, stay a while. There's more.